News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And a very good evening to you. This is Newsline, and we're broadcasting by Zoom today. Our poor studio in Dawson Street is looking all alone, but that'll be put right soon. But tonight, our guest is Tania Abeysundara, who is the president of the Ceylon United Business Alliance, as opposed to the Sri Lanka one, because they get the name, but still. Ceylon United Business Alliance, the president of. Tania Abeysundara. Very good evening to you and welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot, Faraz, and thanks Newsline for having me once again. It's a pleasure always being on with you all.
Everybody in this country is talking taxes and economy. I think Sri Lanka, apart from being a nation of cricket lovers, has now suddenly become a nation of economists because of the challenges. So your organization is saying that taxation is far too high and so on. What is your solution? Is it too high?
Absolutely, Faraz. I mean, why I call it too high is taxes are very important for any nation. I mean, development of the country remains on taxes. We all know that. And we are all for it. But the thing is, the question mark here, the taxes that has been implemented, is it doable? It is gettable. That's how any country goes forward. It should be doable taxes and it should be gettable taxes. Now, this country has, our taxes are very, it is segregated and differentiated differently accordingly to every government that comes into power. So suddenly there was a very close, affordable tax range given to the business industry. Now, you have to take in mind, Rose, I mean, most of these taxes are paid by the SME, indirect taxes, and to direct taxes. Because if you were to take the blue chip companies, multinational companies, oil companies, they have tax exempt, they have tax relief, they have tax benefits. But when you take the SME, is the people who pay taxes to keep the country, the government, and the nation uphold. So who are you collecting taxes? We collect taxes, most amount of taxes from the SME, indirect taxes, because everything that is brought into this country is taxed. And tax is consumed by the people of this country. And the SME, who are the local entities that pay most amount of taxes. Now, if the SME is being drowned and murdered and stopped in action, how is the government going to collect taxes? Now, if you were to take the central bank predicted about 1.2 trillion tax to be collected from last year to this year. Of course, if you were to evaluate, there was 682 million taxes collected in last year. So with the deficit of the rupee going down so badly, what is the difference between 630 to 650 billion to 1.2 trillion? It is the same amount because our rupee has, gone down more than 50 to 60% because the dollar was at 190, 170 to 190. Today, the dollar is at the rate of 320 to 340. So our rupee has depreciated so badly. So the taxes that will be collected will be the same amount. But the difference is even that amount of taxes cannot be collected this year for the simple reason it was good on paper, but realistically it is not possible. Why isn't it possible? Because of the SMV, where we contribute 52% to the country's GDP, the GDP has been closed by 30% of the SMVs are closed down. Another 20% is virtually struggling. So nearly in between 30 to 50% is not paying indirect taxes. Where are you going to collect these taxes? So the consumer market has shrunk by nearly 40%. This is a huge, huge amount.
We hear what you say, of course, but you say that the SMEs are responsible for the bulk of the taxation collected by the inland revenue. But isn't it, I put it to you, that isn't it the problem that it is a question of collection and nothing else really. We had the general manager, a senior person from the Inland Revenue Department here on our program. He told us that pre-2019, that means before Gotabaya became the president, that they had 1.5 million tax files. But after the tax cuts, which probably nobody asked for, but after the tax cuts, those 1.5 million files became just 500,000. So we lost 1 million tax files. But the collection from the 500,000 tax files in terms of rupees and cents is far more than it was before. What do you have to say about the loss of these million tax files?
So this is exactly what I'm trying to say. I mean, it's not implementations of taxes should be the case in every country, and taxes should be it should be uniformitical. It should be gained and gotten by everybody. Now, if you were to take the European countries where the taxes will be collected uniformitically from everybody, so the business sector where you have a grace period where not to pay taxes, and even all countries, and if you were to take our neighboring countries as well, if you were to take developing startup businesses, and if the industries have so much of tax benefits in every country. This is the only country we do not have any sort of tax benefits for any business entities. They think the business entity, the SMV, the small entities are the people who are not paying taxes. It's not that we don't pay taxes. For us to pay taxes, the environment should be there for the taxes to be paid and the government to be collected. But of course, we have to pay our indirect taxes because all raw materials, 90% of our raw materials have been imported. We do not manufacture raw materials in this country. So the raw materials, accessories will be imported. So for these, the taxes will be paid. It's just the direct taxes that we don't have the ability of paying because our revenue to our overheads, to our expenditure, when you were to evaluate, we are not at the moment generating any profits to pay taxes. So our expenditure is more than our revenue. So when this happens, how can we pay taxes? So that was the question mark. But in Gotabaya's period, the previous regime, it was never the case. I mean, of course, the tax file got consumed into a shorter proportion, but collectively the taxes were more. Because whoever who paid taxes, they did pay. Even today, what we say is digitalized. The market should be linked. The entire system should be linked. If you are linking the system together, then the tax revenue department will have the authorities to collect tax. Why are they not collecting tax today? Because the government is responsible for this, because you closed the economy and you opened up a black market. You let the dollar float and you let the black market operate the dollar. So what happened was most of these dollars were parked on offshore accounts. So any importer, where our country's economy depends around imports. We, to 12 billion exports, we import about 20 to 22 billion every month. So just imagine, imports are more than our exports. So obviously, these imports, 60 to 70% of the import, half of the value goes from offshore accounts. So how can you collect taxes? Because the real value of the goods imported into this country, the tax department is not aware of. Because the system is not linked for us. That's why we say the central bank, tax department, the government institutions, customs, and the bank, where we open up a LC should be linked. And it should be transparent to everybody. Where just a touch of a button, this should be available for everybody. So you know how much X amount of goods have been purchased, X amount of goods will come into the country. So then for that X amount of goods, we have to be taxed. Here, the X will be imported, purchased, Y comes in. So you don't know the difference between.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all transparency where the other countries do not have. So you talk of a system, if you do not implement rules properly, how can you gain the benefit out of anything? So end of the day, you can't kill an economy just to sustain a government. And this is exactly what they're doing. Unnecessary increasing taxes and just getting the tax benefits from the people who only are getting it.
Now, Tania, we have the governor of the central bank, Dr. Nandalal Weerasinghe, jolly good man that he is. He's complaining that the banks are not reducing the interest rates. What do you think about that?
I reckon that's the joke of the day for us. He's complaining the banks are not reducing. Isn't it the governor and the central bank's duty to send a circulation in doing so? Verbally, what institution would do? Now you work for an institute. Don't some sort of implementation to be done in your organization? There will be a circulation from the high authority. You got to do this. Or will they just come into a board meeting and say, you have to do this? And no back stock will be taken. This is something like that. The governor says to reduce the tax interest. How can you reduce the interest? The interest is evaluated on the treasury bills and AWPLR rate. Now, if the AWPLR rate is topped at 20%, how can a bank reduce interest? You tell me that for us, because the AWPLR rate will be depending on how much you're going to buy your treasury bills. Now, we called it a bond scan a couple of years back in the Yahapalana government. That was 2% was shifted from here to there. The central bank government and the governor made decisions. The AWPLR rate was at 6% is what the treasury bills were bought on. He suddenly came and made these treasury bills up to 30%. So who made money? There are only 9 institutes in this company can buy treasury bills. That are 6 are banks and 3 are private entities. So how the money goes into these private entities, you and I would not know. So what I would recommend is all this black money was turned into white money overnight.
That's
because the treasury
that's a pretty serious accusation.
I know it is a serious. This is what I think.
That's your personal opinion.
Because just imagine, personal opinion, because I am saying as a business entity, when the treasury bills are bought at 30%, who would want, what bank would ever want to lend at 13, 14%? Obviously, they will buy treasury bills at the rate of 30%. They would only gain, they will want people to put fixed deposits and they will pay 20, 30%, 23 to 25% for fixed deposits. And they will buy treasury bills at 30%. So they are made a profit of 8% just overnight, just keeping the money in their bank. So why do they have to lend to business people and take the risk?
Let's go for a short break and take a peek at this evening's headline news from that wonderful primetime news team.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
Farmers from Vallabha continue their satyagraha for the 9th day. Farmers from Valioya come to the aid of Vallabha farmers while Cabinet decides not to release water. A special team heads to Norelia to probe complaints over vision loss after surgery. Trade unions make revelations about the procurement of lenses. Baunia prison temporarily closed over a measles scare.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And welcome back to Newsline. I'm in conversation with Tania Abeysundara, who is the president of the Ceylon United Business Alliance. Tania, we were talking about taxation. We've been talking about taxation all of the last 14 minutes. But on the one side, you know, we take the point that you say that the central bank can be in the driving seat of bringing rates down rather than complaining that the banks are not doing that. Point taken, point taken. But if you look at it from the point of view of the Treasury and the government, the IMF says we need to increase revenue. And one of the ways of increasing revenue is to raise taxes. So do you have no sympathy for the Treasury?
Absolutely no, Charles, for the simple reason any government, why is tax collected? For the benefit of the country. Today in Sri Lanka, the taxes are collected just to uphold a government, not the country, and to pay all the overheads and all the unnecessary expenditures of the government. Tell me what development that is happening with the taxes that are being collected. So why should we have sympathy? As a government, what are the benefits we get out of this?
But,
they call it free education. You will say we get free health. What is free in health? Only the doctor is free. Everything else we got to pay. Otherwise, the medicine that is being given to us is, either not consume it because your life is at risk.
But
so education.
Yes, sorry, Tania. I was looking through several of my WhatsApp groups, and quite often you hear people write and say things like, the President Wickremesinghe has come in here and he's done a grand job, champion job. And when you ask them why, they'll tell you that there's no petrol queues, there's no queues for gas, inflation's down, the rupee is doing well, and they make up based with sort of lists. What do you say? Do you think it's true? The economy has contracted 12%. 62% of our workforce are daily wage. Only 38% have regular jobs. The dollar, instead of coming down, has gone up again. The other day, I used my credit card in Sri Lanka, and the exchange rate was 441.26 to the pound. I don't think it's getting better. I think there are no queues because we're not paying our bills, our loans. And so we've got a few bit of dollars, and we're parting with that to the Saudis or to whoever. And so life goes on. What do you say?
Absolutely. You are spot on more than me. What I'm saying is, okay, hats off to the president, whatever he says. At least why I'm saying hats off is not for anything what he has done. At least he took over the country when nobody wanted to. Okay, so that's the only good thing. Okay, so okay, we have some sort of harmony to do and live by, but everything else is a calamity.
Well, I don't know about harmony. If you went to the Karapitiya Cancer Hospital, if you come with me next week, I shall take you there, and you can have a look at the cancer wing there. There are people sleeping on the floor. There is no medicine to take out to do the chemotherapy treatment, and instead patients are given slips of paper where they can take it to the nearby pharmacies, private pharmacies, and spend about 26,000 rupees, and they can get their dosage. So, and that is the sum of our national health service.
That's exactly what I said. Harmony is that we could still walk on the road. There is no, people having, doing or having over, what I meant by harmony was the environment has been a bit okay. But calamity, exactly for what I said, there is no medicine. People are dying without medicine. And the medicine you consume, it's rather not you consume it, because if you even consume it, you might end up dying. Like you said, you go to the cancer hospital, there is no medicine available. You have to go buy it on private sector. So we have created monsters out of the situation. That's why I call it a calamity, because though you see it's beautiful outside, inside is a total mess. Because as you said, they say the inflation is down. No, the inflation is not down. Inflation has been contracted. It has been forcibly suppressed. Because like you said, when the consumer market becomes lower, when we are not paying anything, there is always, you feel the inflation is down. But it is not the case. The reality into this is a huge differentiated. This is like a balloon. It looks beautiful outside, but inside it's a total hollow. And that is exactly what has happened to the economy today. Economy is being forcibly contracted to control the inflation. If the inflation has been controlled, not in a proper way, the magnitude it should be, it has been suppressed forcibly, where you are suppressing it forcibly and you don't know what time it will burst, and it is bursting into the inflation is bursting into a recession, because today people are going out of their jobs, companies are closing, and the SME that is hosting 4.5 million people have lost, nearly virtually close about 1 million people will lose their jobs. Factories are closing, offices are closing, businesses are closing. You just see on the road of any road, how many businesses have closed down, how many buildings had to be let. So that itself shows how the inflation has been controlled. No, it has been suppressed forcibly. And as you said, absolutely correctly, and I totally agree, only the government and the governor and the central bank has to take decision, is responsible for today's situation. This situation shouldn't have been the case, because we called the country bankrupt. And I for now say this country is not bankrupt. The government was bankrupt. The central bank was bankrupt by the government. And they called the country bankrupt. Due to these reasons, like you said, the dollar is going up because it's floating. And you cannot, as a business entity, I cannot buy any raw materials and fix a price to say that this will be the price that I'm going to sell my goods. So by doing so, how can I sustain a business? Today, the bank interests are at the level of 23%. All your loans were restructured at 16, 17%. Now you go, the AWPLR rate today is 20%. Plus 3 means 23 to 25% you will be taking a loan. You are supposed to pay 16% onto your restructured loan. Your utilities have gone up by 300%. The consumer market is being contracted. So how is the government expecting the taxes to be collected when the economy is going to collapse more than sooner than you ever think?
Does this mean that President Wickremesinghe won't get re-elected if he stands for re-election?
I mean, our elections and our people, I don't know. Our vote base is a very funny vote base.
Are they myopic? Are they myopic? Are Sri Lankan voters myopic? Yesterday's murderers and rapists and fraudsters are today's MPs and ministers even.
Absolutely true. That is the saddest part. That's why I say the system has to be changed. You can be a good person coming into politics. You will also become a worm in a garbage pit. So this is a garbage can. Where if you do not change the system, if the change system is not linked and transparent, and we do not have long-term policies, we cannot come out of this situation. This country to be turned around, it will only take 3 years. I'm so sad to say, I mean, India has more than 1.2 billion people. And it took them 5 years to digitalize the country. And today they are flourishing. I was in India 1 week ago. I went for a trade show. I was in Bangalore. I was so surprised to see the benefits they get there. If you're an industry, you know, the government would pay 50% of your wages for a period of 2 years.
I think we need to we'll need to move
benefit.
the head office of Capital Maharaja Group to Bangalore in that case, because we can all get pay rises.
Absolutely. I am also thinking of, because it is a good, the world out there is so much greener. And the Asia that we are talking of, it has so much of potential. And strategically, this country is in a beautiful place. Turn around and making this country into a beautiful, livable, this land is beautiful, what we call, will only take us 3 years. If the government really wants it, if the people who have been elected really want it. The difference is, the saddest part is, whoever who comes into power only thinks of themselves, but not the country. It's high time we become selfless. It's selfishness.
Sorry, go on.
I mean, our selfishness has driven this country into this state. It is sad, but so sorry. As a Sri Lankan, I mean, I love this country, but I wish we could turn this country around, and we can do it.
Are you going into politics yourself?
Absolutely no. You mean to say this country is not a place for politics to be done for people like us? We are too genuine.
But who's going to make change then? Who's going to make the change?
I mean, changes can be made if whoever who wants to come into power wants to change the system. So long the system is being changed, we need policies that could be. You're in England today. Now the England Prime Minister came up with a policy of the health sector. He put in £3 billion pounds for the health. Now, he as a policy maker did that. Maybe he won't be there to implement it, but the next government who would come into power will carry on his implementation. So this is national policy is what we need. If you want to take a country forward, you can't depend on political gains. You can't have lines that I would give you 10,000 today and, get your vote base and come and ruin the country. You need policies where we'll go forward, and ministers are there for a 5-year job. It is a job that they do. They do not own the country. The president is the head. Like, I own a company. I am the chairperson. So I take responsible for my company. I do not come up and say that I cannot, because I am the head. So is the president. Any president that has been elected is the head of the country. He has to take responsibility of the country's plight. Whoever who sits on that chair has a big burden towards the people, towards the nation.
But when our president, not only President Wickremesinghe, but any president, whenever they take tough decisions, they get blamed. All the people start shouting.
I mean, isn't Modi being blamed for decisions he has taken? But he stands by his decisions and he takes the decisions in favor of the country. If you are making the correct decisions and their national policies, you will never go wrong.
Well, I take your point about Bangalore, and I also take your point about Sri Lanka. There really is no place like this magical, mystical land. True. All we are lacking. God's blessed us in many ways with our geographical location, our minerals, our sun, our seas, our people, the ever smiling Sri Lankan people. But God, in his wit and in his wisdom, perhaps, forgot one part, and urgent messages are being sent up there, and that is to bless us with genuine politicians. Tania Abeysundara, thank you very much for being on Newsline today.
Thank you, Feroz. It is a pleasure always being with MTV, Newsline, and thank you very much for having me once again. I'm looking forward for many of these. Just to, not for me, but for the country's gain. Anything I can give, I would really be happy to be in any form of asset.
Well, at News First, we carry on the ethos and the vision that was set to us by the late Mr. Kili Rajamahendran, and that was to represent the people's interests first. And it's always been a pleasure at the Capital Maharaja Group to do exactly that. Take care. Have a great evening. It's now time for the Primetime News from that wonderful team up. Thank you. And now, before I say, have a great evening as much as you can. And God bless you all.